There are 3 types of damage in League of Legends: physical, magic, and true damage. Of these 3, true damage is by far the best, highly sought after and complained about endlessly. The other 2 damage types have to deal with armor and magic resistance, which reduces their effectiveness. But what if I told you that any champion can deal true damage? This video is a deep dive into the maths behind armor, lethality, and the magic damage equivalents. So prepare yourself for a lot of maths, graphs, and nerd talk. At the end, I'll show you the maximum resistance reduction you can achieve in an actual game, as well as some information about resistances that you'll actually find useful. In League, there are 2 types of resistances: physical resistance, better known as armor, and magic resistance. Armor reduces incoming physical damage, and magic resistance does the same for magic damage. Incoming physical and magic damage is multiplied by this modifier during calculation, reducing more damage the more resistances the target has. This graph shows how the modifier changes depending on a champion's resistance. Using the modifier, we can find the formula for post-mitigation damage after resistance calculation. Rearranging it to solve for pre-mitigation damage gives us this linear equation, which shows us how each point of resistance effectively adds 1% to a champion's maximum health. For example, a champion with 1000 health and 25 armor takes 20% less physical damage. This champion is able to tank 1250 physical damage before dying, because the 25 armor points increase their effective health against physical damage by 25%. While resistances are a strong defensive stat, able to multiply a champion's effective health by 3 or 4 times under normal conditions, they can be bypassed in multiple ways. One way is to deal true damage, which is not affected by either resistance type and most forms of damage reduction. The other way is by reducing resistances on your target, either through resistance penetration, or pen, or resistance shred. The way that these types of reduction are differentiated is simple. Shred is a debuff on enemies, and pen is a buff on yourself. Both reduce the value of a target's resistances before calculating damage, applying in this order. There are 2 types of both pen and shred, flat and percentage. Flat reduction decreases resistance points by a fixed number. This is commonly seen in game as lethality and flat magic pen, and stacks additively with itself. Flat reduction is most impactful against targets with low resistances. Percentage reduction decreases resistance points by a percentage of the total. This is seen in-game on items like Lord Dominic's Regards and Void Staff, and stacks multiplicatively with itself. Percent reduction has a stronger effect on targets with more resistances. Increasing flat reduction slides the damage modifier curve to the right, and doing the same for percent reduction stretches the curve out horizontally. This flat section at the top of the graph is where resistances are reduced to 0, and physical and magic damage are indistinguishable from true damage. Armor and magic penetration can be used to deal pseudo-true damage, by reducing a target's resistances to 0 during damage calculation. Most champions have between 90 and 120 armor, and between 50 and 70 magic resist, so we'll assume our target has resistances within these ranges. First, we'll tackle physical damage. There are 6 assassin items that grant 18 flat armor pen, also known as lethality. Opportunity grants an extra 10.5 for melee champions when out of combat, thanks to its passive preparation. Taking 4 lethality items, along with opportunity, nets us 100.5 lethality, which already brings us within the range of most champions without armor items. The last item will be Cyrilda's Grudge, granting 15 more lethality and 37.7% armor pen from its passive Rancor. You might be asking, why not build Lord Dominic's Regards? It gives 40% armor pen, which is obviously higher. The reason for this is that since Cyrilda's gives some extra lethality, against lower armored targets it has an advantage. For LDR to really shine, the target has to have a lot of armor, specifically 654 armor. If you're fighting a champion with this much armor as an assassin, I recommend you switch targets and hit someone a little squishier. With the Cyrilda's build, we can reduce our target's resistances to 0, and therefore deal pseudo-true damage if they have less than 186 armor. This includes most champions level 18 armor, plus the armor from a Zhonya's or Guardian Angel, meaning at full build you can completely bypass their resistances through a defensive item. If you've ever played ADC against an assassin, you instinctively know how broken this is. The best part is this isn't even an impractical build. Most assassins build this, or a variation of this, in their games. Now for magic damage. There are far fewer items that give magic pen, but this is because most champions have a lower base magic resist than armor. With Sorcerer's Shoes, Shadow Flame, and Storm Surge, we can get 40 flat magic pen. There are 2 items that give percent magic pen, Void Staff and Crypt Bloom. Before our purposes, the clear winner is Void Staff with 40%. With the 40-40 build, the highest magic resistance we can bypass is 66.7. The distribution of champion magic resistance is very different to that of champion armor. While armor's distribution is roughly shaped like a bell curve, magic resistance has 2 spikes that contain 80% of all champions. There are 70 champions with 52.1 magic resist, and 68 champions with 66.85. Both Both these numbers are within the 40-40 build's true damage range, so you can bypass a target's natural magic resistance at 3 items plus boots. This is also very fun to experience if you're a masochist who likes eating luck salts every 40 seconds. The benefit of the 40-40 build being easier to buy is that you have room to build other items for their passives, like Rabadon's Death Cap and Zhonya's Hourglass. The downside is that it isn't as devastating as a full lethality build. If your target decides to build either more Malmortius or Mercurial Scimitar, their magic resistance will kick in and overwhelm your magic pen, dropping your damage by roughly 20%. Some champions have inbuilt resistance pen, like Gangplank, Aphelios, and Mordekaiser. Others have some way of inflicting resistance shred, like Evelynn, Corki, and Nasus. These champions can reduce resistances more than the rest of the roster, since they can stack their innate pen and shred with items. The first reduction effect to be applied during damage calculation is Flat Shred, which is a very uncommon stat. Examples of this include Rengar's Thrill of the Hunt and Baron Nashor's auto attacks. Then comes percent shred and percent penetration. These are both calculated multiplicatively instead of additively, meaning you cannot have over 100% resistance reduction. Instead, each reduction is applied successively. For example, against a champion with 100 armor, if you have 30% armor pen in your kit and buy LDR, you reduce their armor by 58, instead of the 70 you would get from additive stacking. After percent shred and pen is calculated, we finally apply flat penetration. Aphelios is the only champion with this in his kit. Everyone else has to buy it. Something to note is that only flat shred can reduce a target's resistances to below 0. This makes them take more damage than was dealt to them, but is very unlikely to happen in an actual game. If any other form of reduction would reduce resistances to below 0, it instead just calculates damage as if they have 0 resistances. These extra sources of resistance reduction allow these champions to build other stats. Evelynn can build more flat AP for more healing and higher damage, and Gangplank has room to build crit items and Trinity Force. Inbuilt reductions aren't just free stats, they dictate how a champion is played and itemized. For optimal gameplay, you must weigh the benefit of extra resistance reduction with the stats and passives of other items. This video would be way too long if I went into detail about every champion build, so that's something I leave to you, the viewer. Let's find out the highest resistance value we can reduce to 0. We'll assume that we have 4 teammates to apply status effects for us, including abilities and items that shred resistances. We also won't include Baron's auto attacks, since this can stack infinitely. For armor, first we apply Nasus' Spirit Fire, Trundle's Subjugate, Renekton's Empowered Dice, and Kog'Maw's Caustic Spittle. We'll also apply Black Cleaver's fully stacked Carve, which one of our allies will take. This shreds armor by a total of 90.58%. We'll play as either Darius or Gangplank, since both have 40% armor pen in their kits. We could take Yasuo instead, since his ult gives him 50% bonus armor pen on critical strikes. However, this raises an issue because this armor pen only works on bonus armor, which varies depending on the target champion. We also lose lethality by building crit items. I don't feel like calculating this one, so I will assume my way is the optimal way. With the previously mentioned Cyrilda's lethality build, we have a total of 115.5 lethality and 37.7% armor pen. Including the 40% from our champion's kits, we can reduce armor by 96.48%, then a further 115.5 points on top of that. Following all that, we can deal 100% of our pre-mitigation damage to all targets below 3,281 armor. Normally, this amount of armor would reduce incoming damage to 3%, so we effectively multiplied our damage output against this theoretical opponent by 33. You might have noticed we didn't include any sources of flat armor shred. This is because at such high armor values, percent reduction is much more valuable than flat reduction, and since flat armor shred is applied first, its effects aren't felt as strongly. Next, we can do the same thing for magic damage. It doesn't really matter which champion we play, as long as we play one of these 5, since they all have magic resistance shred, not penetration. First we apply Malignance's Flat Shred, then apply Evelynn's Allure, Trundle's Subjugate, Kog'Maw's Caustic Spittle, Karthus' Wall of Pain, and 2 of Rumble's Empowered Electro Harpoons. Including the passives from Terminus and Abyssal Mask, and Voidstaff's 40% magic pen, we can reduce magic resist by 97.36%, and then remove another 40 points thanks to the 3 magic pen items. The highest value of magic resistance we can completely mitigate with this setup is 1,525, which would normally reduce incoming damage to 6.2%. This is much lower than the value for armor, mainly because of the difference in flat pen between the builds. If you could have 115.5 flat magic pen, the same as the armor pen build, you could deal true damage to a target with 4,386 magic resistance. These numbers are all big and scary and don't have much relevance in an actual game. You'll never face a target with that much armor or magic resist, and even if you did, it would be easier to play a champion with innate true damage. But there is something we can learn from this. At full build, assassins will overkill weakly armored targets, even through a defensive item, and mages with the 40-40 build completely destroy unarmored champions. The way that natural armor growth works, most champions who don't build armor will be outpaced by lethality stackers. By the time late game rolls around, squishies will be well within the pseudo true damage range. For assassins, it becomes more worthwhile to build flat flat damage or defensive items instead of more lethality. This also highlights the importance of an early lead. If you're ahead in gold, you're able to buy more armor pen quicker and reach the threshold for true damage sooner. The same is true for magic damage carries, though once they have the 40-40 build, they're forced to buy items without magic pen. This is also a lesson to squishies, wondering why their guardian angel doesn't stop them from being one-shot by a 1 in 7 talon. He has more armor pen than you have armor. Instead, try building some health items, or build full damage and kill him first. Thanks to those of you who made it to the end. This video has been sitting in the back of my head for a long time, since before I started making these videos. A lot of the specifics about items and stats will change over time, as Riot attempts to balance their game, but the concepts and ideas behind this video will stay relevant. As of writing the script, we are at 4.97 thousand subscribers, so by the time this video comes out it will be past the 5k mark. I might do something special at 10,000, so let me know what it should be. As always, if you have any ideas for videos, leave them in the comments. Thanks again for watching.